Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to the 203rd episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. Today's show features Brennen Shermer. He is a watercross racer, but more importantly, he is a veteran of the United States Navy. So I'm excited to bring him on. We cover some pretty powerful stuff in this show, so stay tuned. Before I get into it, though, there's a few things I want to cover first. Starting with 4-Wheel Parts, they've got their end-of-year clearance sales going on right now, and I'm scrolling through their website here, and they've got several versions of Pro Comp reservoir shocks for a pretty doggone good price, I think. And there's some things that, online it says you can't see the price until you add it to your cart. That's likely because it's below whatever the manufacturer has listed as like their minimum cost. So lots of stuff going on here and their clearance sale. I think they call this their Overstock Garage. Overstock Garage. So I encourage you to head over there, check that out. Just kind of search around and see what you can find. It's guaranteed you're going to find something for your vehicle that you're going to want. I know I do every time. And I really want to encourage you right now to head over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and leave a rating review for the show. It is a big deal for the show. It helps keep us relevant in the podcast space. But you can also leave reviews on other channels. It's just this is the one that really has a big impact on the overall visibility of the show. Speaking of other channels, too, you can subscribe no matter what you're on. We're on Stitcher, we're on, obviously, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all over the place. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find the show. So if you're listening on the website, probably one of the best ways to do it is download one of these apps on your phone and subscribe to the show. That's just the easiest way to do it. And outside of that, I'd love to hear your story, even if it's just a little paragraph or something. You can email me about maybe changes you've made to your program because of this show. We've had people on the show before that have talked about that, but I'd just love to know a little bit more from you personally, what you've done to change your program. And I might be able to feature that in a future episode, maybe read them off, or just keep them for my own, my own understanding of how the show can impact, your life. So appreciate that. My email is josh@sponsoredriderclubpodcast, all one word, .com. You can also hit me up on any of the social media DMs. I want to take this next moment here to thank the awesome sponsors for the show that make it possible. We already discussed 4-Wheel Parts, who was our title sponsor, but we also have these several other companies here. AMSOIL, they provide amazing lubrication products, and they're a company that runs on freedom. You can find out more at amsoil.com/rider. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology, and they're ready to rescue your race. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsport sponsorship and website creation. They can also do some pretty awesome resumes. And then Crash Act Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. Speaking of High Octane Coffee, we are going to kick off this next round here with the High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up with Joe Sylvester.
What's up, guys? Joe Sylvester here with your High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up of the Day. Today I want to talk about sponsor attraction. Sponsor attraction, to me, is a much better tactic than quote-unquote sponsor hunting. You want to build your brand. You want to establish yourself in the racing community and in the marketing realm of things. As a respected individual, as a professional, you don't want to just keep knocking on doors and hoping somebody answers. You want the sponsors to come to you. That is the most ideal situation for you to be in, and it's the most ideal situation for them. Believe it or not, companies do have, people that work for them, or even owners of companies. They take notice on social media. They see what's going on, and they see the brands. They see the people that stand out. Make yourself stand out from the rest. Be very active on social media. Be very active with your press releases. Try to grow your email database. And like I said, build your brand. Make your brand something that a company would be proud to be associated with. And like I said, when they come to you, it's a much better feeling than sitting there all night long sending out 100 emails. I know this from experience, trust me.
Today's show features Brennen Shermer, and we've got a little bit of a cool tale of why you're on the show here, but before I get into all that, I want you to tell us about yourself.
All right, well, I'm Brennen Shermer. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Josh, for having me on the show. I race watercross. I'm from Schaefer, Minnesota. A little bit of background about myself is I grew up near Grantsburg, Wisconsin, where actually the World Championships of watercross are held. So as I was younger, I would watch it, and I had interest in trying it sometime. And then just one year, last year, I decided to actually give it a shot, and I ended up building a sled myself, which is a little different than most rookies that come into a sport. They usually jump in and they'll buy someone else's that they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little different where I actually came in, not knowing what to really do. And, so coming in as a rookie and also building a sled from the ground up as well, it's a little different than what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had some struggles at first, and I had some people help me, give me some tips, get my feet on the ground. And by the end of the year, I actually, found myself on the podium and ended up achieving Rookie of the Year by the end of the year.
Oh,
so
perfect.
It was very rewarding. I think building your own sled is a big reward in a way when you improve with what you built. So and I feel you learn a lot more that way as well.
Yeah,
what works
definitely.
and what doesn't.
Definitely. What's your relationship with Justin Crabben?
So actually, the sled that I was just describing, the first one I built, is the one that he bought for me. I ended up selling actually after my first year, and he bought that to start his rookie year. So what ended up kind of happening is after the rookie year, a big sponsor of mine, Bike and Performance, we kind of got together and we're kind of discussing, for the upcoming season, which was this year, and we decided that we were going to actually go a mod route. So in my second year of racing, I started all over again and built another sled from scratch. So 2 years of racing, and both years have been sleds that I built from scratch. So yeah, I ended up selling that one to Justin Crabben, and he started on that. So
perfect. And if you're listening right now, Justin was just on 2 episodes ago, so I believe, I hope I'm not messing my numbers up here. This one should be episode 203. Justin was just on 201. So if you want to know a little more about Justin, you can go back a little bit and hear that. And that's how we got connected, was kind of through that episode too. And we were able to make this happen really quickly, which is awesome. Okay, so that's enough of me interrupting you. Keep going with your story there.
So, he was looking for a sled, and he ended up buying mine, and then we just ended up became teammates. I told him, when I first started out, I had a little bit of help from Ryan McCurdy Jr. to start out, and then, which me and him have built a big relationship now. The actual sled I'm riding now, the second one I built here, it's pretty much a twin of his, which he's a former world champ. But anyway, when I sold it to Justin, I told him that, I'd be there to help him or anything, like on the sled and stuff like that. And we just got talking more, and then we ended up started practicing together, and then just became full teammates. So. Oh,
perfect. Well, that's a good intro there, but I want to dig in a little deeper. I want to know a little bit more about your story. You kind of hinted at it there, how you kind of got started. Sounds like you grew up around watercross and things like that, but let's hear more about your story, because there's another element that is going to be very important when we get in the main event. So let's go a little bit deeper this time in your background.
Okay, so also prior to starting racing here, I was in the Navy. I served for 6 years. I was deployed to Afghanistan with NMC 25, served as on a convoy security team. So, after the deployment in Afghanistan, you change, and, the PTSD, depression, anxiety, all that stuff kind of, got on top of me. And then, when I decided to build the race sled there, it's been nothing but kind of a change around. It's, and what I find is, we can get into it a little deeper in the main, but, it's really cleared my mind on a lot of stuff and keeps my mind occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Good. Yeah, and first off, thanks for your service. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then what we're going to do, when we come back a little bit, we've kind of got some time carved out in the main event. We're going to talk a little bit more about, your connection to PTSD and racing and how you've kind of used that to overcome this. We haven't really talked that much about this kind of stuff on the show before. We have had Race to Erase 22 on the show before. If you're not familiar with them, Brennen, check them out. But they are big into desert racing, and it's all about just the mental challenges that veterans have to overcome after leaving the service. So I actually had them on it was only like a 5-minute segment back. I think it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was the 2018 Vegas to Reno race I had them on. But either way, really cool organization. But we don't really hit on it too much in the show. The show is very business marketing focused, but we do bring in mindset and other elements that people need to understand to be better, in their racing program. So I think this is gonna be a good tie-in to all of those things about mindset. So we'll come back and we're gonna hit this really hard in the main event, just so everybody knows. So let's kind of get caught up on where you're at right now. I mean, what are you super excited about? What are you fired up right now?
I'm fired up. I ended up getting on the podium here with the mod sled, the season points, and I'm going to be moving to the Pro Open class next year. So
nice. I'm
pretty fired up about that.
Yeah.
After a couple of years of racing and jumping in with the pros. So
nice.
I'm pretty pumped about that. I've already been tearing into things already, and so.
Good deal. Well, if you need any tips on how to ride on the water, let me know. I'm an expert at it.
Okay.
No, I've crossed like a 15-foot section before, and I didn't have to change my pants afterwards, so that was great. That's about all I've ever done. I've crossed little sections of water, but that was the biggest thing. It was like 15 foot, maybe. I mean, to me, it felt like it was about a mile long. And I had a 98 ZR600 at the time, and I just leaned back, held it down, I got across, woo, never want to do that ever again. And you just do it for fun. That's your thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not quite for me. Not yet. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll become a watercross champion. But it's pretty unlikely. Pretty unlikely. Well, hey, who are some of your current sponsors and partners right now?
So right now, Bikeman Performance is a very big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Blown Concepts, Boys and Reeds, Curb Industries, Dan's Mobile Repair, Finish Line Photography, Fly Racing, Libel Farms, North Branch Synthetics, Solos Customs, Wagner Painting, Wasser Pistons, and so far added to the list for next year is Klein.
Oh, nice. I got a couple of questions on that list here real quick. First off, Boysen. I don't know if I've ever had a Boysen Reeds sponsored rider on here before. That is awesome. I used to love Boysen Reeds. I don't know why. It's just I love that stuff. Yes,
they're definitely their reeds are definitely, I would say, the top of the line.
Mm-hmm. On that old 98 ZR600 I was talking about, I had Boysen Reeds and spacers on that, and I thought I was just the baddest cat around. I mean, it was pretty sweet. Right. I mean, that thing ran good. 0 to 50, it was an animal.
Yeah, I just kind of reached out to them, and they kind of came back like, yeah, we'll help you out. And I've seen a couple other sleds with poison on them as well. So
No,
they're
that's
kind
awesome.
of they got a few other people on the watercross circuit.
Nice, good deal. And then there's a couple other ones I heard in there. I missed the name of it. I was trying to write it down. It was a photographer. Tell me about that one.
Yep. So that's actually a buddy of mine's friend, Finish Line Photography. She was kind of starting out, so she kind of followed me around for the race season last year to, get as much, pictures she could take, and I would post them up for her and stuff like that. She would post. So she's been trying to kind of get her name out right now. She's just trying to start out in the business. So I invited her to follow along. She came with to pretty much every race last year and, followed us around. And she did a lot of pictures for Justin as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing examples of people, trading services or, starting off early and growing together. Like that's the way you got to do it to get started. People ask me that a lot on the show. They'll reach out to me on direct message or email or something to say, hey, what do I do to get started? Maybe I've got one or two sponsors. How do I keep going? Or maybe I started on Hook It, and how do I go from there? And this is one of those ways you find other people who need help spreading their name or growing, and you start making it happen. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's family. Sometimes your friends or family connect you with somebody else that's one of their friends. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I love the idea too of the photography piece, because it's very important for social media to have really good content, and it's hard to get good content if you're the only one creating it, and because you need someone taking some of those action shots when you're a racer too. So that's good stuff.
And there's a couple other ones that also follow the IWA there, and they take awesome pictures as well. But I thought that was really kind of unique and cool that she wanted to follow us as a team, for the team. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Perfect. It sounded like you said a painting company too.
Yeah, it's Wagner Painting. It's a relative of mine who's in southern Minnesota.
Okay.
Kind of same type of thing. He's had his business here for a few years. And, we kind of talked and, I'd advertise for him and as much as I could and, get his name out as well. So. Perfect. And then another one is Solos Customs.
Okay.
He's also he's a vet as well. He owns a company. He started his own company making custom motorcycle parts, and he did all the powder coating on my snowmobile and some other custom work. But,
nice.
And his property is actually where I do my practice and stuff like that. So
oh, okay. Okay. Now we're talking.
Huge, and from a business standpoint, we did that, and now all of a sudden, we became like really close friends. We went hunting this fall, and so it's kind of amazing how just from that, talking sponsorship to now we're like really good friends. So outside of business and racing, so kind of neat where that stuff can actually go.
Oh, definitely. So you're saying on his property, what does he have, a pond or a lake or something?
Yeah, he's got property that attaches to a private lake.
Oh, so, perfect.
Yep. So we go up there, and that's where we do our practice almost every weekend. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, that's it's pretty cool how these things happen. I love finding that out, like all these different connections, and you wouldn't think that they would. I don't know. You wouldn't even think they'd exist, and then all of a sudden these things. Oh yeah. Oh, you're a vet. Oh yeah, me too. Oh, you happen to have a custom motorcycle company that does powder coating. Like, oh, I could use some powder coating. Like, oh, you actually have land that backs up to a private lake that I can snowmobile on. No, perfect. We can definitely work together. So that's cool. That's really cool stuff.
Yep. And then we had that same private lake. We did a bunch of duck hunting on this.
Oh, okay.
This fall. So
Yeah.
we're both same thing. We both found out we like duck hunting, and we just decided to hunt on the lake together too. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
well,
it's cool.
Good deal. Well, that is all I wanted to kind of hit on here and heat to the background. So right now I'm going to take a quick minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast, and then we'll hop back into the main event. Let's talk about your truck for a minute. You can count on it to haul your vehicle and your gear to the track or to the trailhead, but I bet you never think about the motor oil. Here's why you should. Your oil is the only thing preventing your engine from wearing out and breaking down. To keep your truck running strong, look for an oil with added wear protection. Like, for example, AMSOIL Signature Series Synthetic Motor Oil. It delivers 75% more engine protection against horsepower loss and wear than is required by the leading industry standard. It provides the next level protection today's demanding engines need to keep running for years and to keep effortlessly towing your ride to the track. Go to AMSOIL.com/rider to find out more. Make the switch to AMSOIL Synthetic Motor Oil today to keep your vehicle running great. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both. And that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you gotta check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club Podcast website is SponsoredRiderClubPodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
Hey guys, George Hamill here to talk about SolderWeld's new off-road repair kit. If you're a racer of any type or an off-road enthusiast like myself, you're going to want to take a close look at this product that bonds metal on the spot. SolderWeld has combined some of their most elite products into one small kit that fits perfectly under your seat or strapped to a roll cage and allows you to make some insane fixes anywhere you go. How many of us have been in a race or out on the trail and got a rock chip in a radiator or brake line? We have seen a top-tier desert race team at the 2019 Min 400 taken out by a simple rock to the radiator. If they had an off-road repair kit on board, they could have been back up and running in just minutes. The kit includes everything you need to work on dirty aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and many other metals. SolderWeld's cutting-edge technology allows you to make these fixes with extremely low heat and incredibly high tensile strength, leaving you a lasting fix every time. Don't be that guy broke down on the side of the trail. Get your off-road repair kit today, and your friends will thank you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now in the main event, and we are going to hit on a couple of topics here. We will get into some of the more specific sponsorship stuff, but I wanted to start off diving deeper into what we talked about before, your connection between the PTSD from your tour in Afghanistan and how you've used racing and building your sleds and stuff to overcome some of that. So let's I don't know, where do you want to start at for this?
Well, we can basically, we'll just kind of start with, so as when I was in Afghanistan, I was on a convoy security team, which we basically, took personnel and, brought them to, with my time when we were there, they were starting to tear down all the camps and stuff like that. So we would haul them to the job sites, they would tear down, and part of the other mission was, they were training the Afghan Army, the A&A at the time. So, we doing the convoys were basically just hauling around personnel from place to place and, doing that sort of thing. So, as a gunner, up top, we put a lot of miles on while we were there. So, we got into certain situations and stuff. So, but now we'll come back into, back here, I had a hard time kind of readjusting to, personal life and after being there. So now, when I found racing, it definitely helped in a lot of different ways between, I found kind of, I don't know, like a happy spot, it really took my mind off a lot of things, like building the sleds, it just kept me busy. And, one of the biggest things I would say is, once you get out of the service and stuff like that is, the brotherhood feeling that you lose. And with racing, it seems like I got that feeling back again, if that makes any sense. Like, being, especially watercross, because it's such a close group and everyone's like a family, so everyone's always helped each other out. It's just kind of, even though you're racing against them, there's still, you get that brotherhood feeling back again and, being in a group. So,
well, first off, I can never relate because I've never been in the service. But I've heard stories from other folks, and what you're just talking about there reminded me of a conversation I had with the guy I work with. He was an Army veteran, and he was telling me about, after he had come back, it was, he didn't have like some of the things that he was involved in weren't as traumatic, but he's like, coming back was such a big adjustment because you'd gotten so used to a certain way of life, a certain structure, a certain plan, like, every daily routine, every thing that was already laid out, already planned for you was not there anymore. He's like, he was describing me how something simple like getting dressed in the morning created this like crazy amount of stress. And that's something I would have never imagined. I always thought of, adjusting based off of purely just traumatic experiences. I never thought about just your whole way of life changes. And he started describing me all these different elements of it. And he brought in the brotherhood piece too. He's like, yeah, I go back to work. And I'm like, it's just not the same. Like we're aligned on maybe a goal or a project or a vision or something, but it's like, I'm not depending on this person next to me anymore for my life. It's just a different connection. And that blew my mind. I don't know. It sounds like what you're describing here has some of those same elements of just like, why is this thing that used to be normal, why is it feels so wrong now?
It does. And I mean, the thing is like, you can technically like PTSD and stuff like that, whether you actually the combat or not, it's still, you still do have some of that PTSD, you know, because no matter if you see it or not, it's just the environment and constantly, you know, it's like you're constantly having to watch your back all the time. And so when you get back to civilian life, you're stuck in such a, I don't know if you'd so much say like robot mode, but you know, you're stuck in ways and habits that are hard to come back out of, you know. So I know one of the things I've said before, and you know, hopefully my close friends here don't hear it too much, but you know, one of the things I said was, you know, like my close best friends here, when I left, when I came back, I felt like they weren't my best friends anymore.
Yeah.
Like that connection just wasn't the same as the whole brotherhood feeling. Just it's kind of weird to think about, but it's just weird. So racing has definitely, you know, helped me in a lot of different ways. That whole thing, you know, it's found something, you know, I kind of found my passion now, you know, set goals and dreams, you know, so.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And tell me about building your sled. You said it kind of helped you get your mind off of things, and you know, maybe it just gave you something to keep your hands busy and, you know, your mind focused. But I mean, was there something else to it?
Yeah, that's basically more on basically, you know, it's just, you know, a lot of vets, you know, have problems with, you know, just trying to sit still and be relaxed. You know, you're just, you know, it's something to do and keep you occupied and keep your mind off of things, you know, that, you know, the whole depression and anxiety and stuff. It keeps me busy, you know. I spend a lot of hours in the garage, and, you know, it's kind of my happy place. So.
Oh, that's good. Something else you said, too, I think kind of opened my eyes up a little bit. You were talking about, like, being in the environment of always having to be ready and always on call, and, you know, something could happen at any moment. Like, that's pretty stressful, I would imagine. I was just thinking this is in no way on the same level, or, you know, this is just like a tiny example of, you know, some of the stress that I felt recently and how that could be extrapolated, you know, to the nth degree in the situation you're describing. Like, you know, I've been working a lot of hours recently on my day job, and you know, kind of tied to a lot of things with my smartphone, you know, and even right now I'm just checking it. Okay, good, no messages. Phew. But I've been doing that, you know, periodically, even over the Christmas Day here, and like, oh, is anything going on? Oh, okay. Oh, there's something. I got to respond. Okay, well, all right, I think we're good. And just that added little stress it's kind of exhausting, you know, and extend that out over, I mean, honestly, what, on and off over the course of 6 years for you? Like,
yeah.
that's, I can't real fully imagine what that would feel like. And then have that be gone or changed, right? And then you probably are seeing smaller things that maybe aren't a threat, like when it turns into a threat in your mind, your body still thinks it's a threat, and your mind's like, no, it's not, it's fine. And your body's like, whoa, it is not fine.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's just, you know, other vets will definitely, you know, agree on, you know, it's just the smallest little things that get turned into the biggest things. You know, it's weird. It's weird. Sometimes it's really hard to explain. You know, it's odd. It's a whole different world. And, you know, that's what I kind of, you know, I was glad to have you bring me on here. You know, if there is any other listeners that, you know, are vets that, you know, snowmobile ride too, and, you know, we get to listen, and, you know, they're probably in the same boat, you know, and they can reach out and we can talk, or, you know, maybe they'd like to get into racing and, you know, try to help with some of the issues they have as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's good, and I'm glad you reached out to me and kind of shared your story a little bit, because I think it fits nicely with what we're trying to do. like this show is largely focused on motorsports marketing and sponsorship, and but we talk a lot about getting your mind right. And if you're coming out of a traumatic experience, especially over a long period of time, and you need a good outlet, like this is a great outlet. Racing, backcountry riding, whatever it is, it takes a lot of physical strength, physical focus, mental development from the standpoint of, especially if you're building your own machine, but figuring out how your machine runs, figuring out how to ride it, keeping the mental endurance, and then you have to learn the whole business side of things with social media and with, sponsorships and contracts and, presenting yourself in public, doing podcasts, whatever it is. It's all a pretty good way, I think, to use your energy, use your talents, and I think make a positive impact, because it's a lot of people get enjoyment out of watching people race or learning about people race. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about that a little bit and dig into kind of what it means to you, and you kind of put that plug out there if people want to reach out and talk to you. They can do that. Actually, normally I do this at the end of the show, but since we just talked about it, what's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
They can either, Facebook, it's Brennen Shermer, or on Instagram, it's Brennen Shermer 178.
Perfect. And I'll have something linked on my website too if people are trying to connect. Well, good. Let's cover a couple more things here on sponsorship, and then we'll close things out. You already gave me a little bit of insight here on some connections that you made with your current sponsors. What other ones maybe would you want to talk about? Whether it's connection or, an established relationship that you want to talk about, but is there any other sponsors that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest one, when it comes to a relationship and stuff like that, I'd say it's became with Bike Man Performance,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people in the snowmobile industry know of them. But so I'm only about 5 miles from their shop.
Oh, really?
Is where I live. So being close also helps a lot. But one thing that besides being sponsored by them was, I also spend a lot of time just in the shop with them.
Mm-hmm.
With the guys, building a friendship and a relationship, and outside of sponsorship, just I spend time in the shop, especially with Joey in the back there at the dyno. See what he's got going there. A lot of cool things are happening, and I'll help him set up the dynos sometimes. And he's been a big mentor for me as well for the whole watercross experience as well. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's something that's relatively rare. To be close to one of your sponsors. I was just trying to think in my head of the sponsors I work with. I think the closest one is about a 4-hour drive. So we don't see each other very often. So yeah, that's got to be a huge advantage and something that people could take away from this, right? If you're down the road from a company and they happen to be involved with what you do, or maybe not involved with what you do, and maybe that's a good opportunity to approach them and see if they want to work together.
Yeah, and kind of build a friendship together, and
mm-hmm.
One of the kind of unique things I would say is with Bike Man Performance, with Joey is, after every race we'd actually sit down and I'd share the videos with him, and we'd actually sit down and watch the videos, and he'd sit there and mentor me, on what I'm improving on, and what still needs work yet, So
yeah,
I got someone that will sit down with me, and he's not the type to sugarcoat it either, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you need to work on, and you get better and better. So we'll sit down and watch videos and where did I screw up, or what needs improvement.
Oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. Hard to beat that relationship.
No, it's definitely can't thank them guys enough though. It's been huge, and for him to take the time to do that with me is very appreciated too. So
yeah, definitely. Well, cool. I was going to ask you here, is there something that kind of different or unique that you've done to promote one of your sponsors before?
Part of it with Bike Man Performance, I would say, going into the shop a lot is one thing that's different than I would say, most people do with their sponsors, is, spending more time just with them besides, actual racing and sponsorships, just, getting to know them on a different level rather than, more of the, hey, can I get parts of this and that, and I'll advertise for you. But, actually just being involved with them alone and spending other time, that goes back to kind of even like the solo customs, where now we're hunting together.
Yeah. Yep.
So, that's kind of a different approach I take, as I try to, with my sponsors, try to get to know them on a different level as well, and try to build a better relationship.
No, I think that is good, and it is definitely a unique thing. The more often that you can do that, the better. And we hear about it on the show a lot, and sometimes logistically it's very challenging, but people make it happen. And I think that the folks that do make that happen and figure out ways to do it end up being more successful overall in the long run. They have longer lasting relationships, and that I think that is a very good example. Very good example.
I mean, one thing that I do need to get a little better at is the social media thing.
Oh yeah.
I've never really been a big social media person. So when I started racing, that was a new thing to me, is how big the actual social media network actually is. And so I've been getting better at it. I started an Instagram this year. So I'm starting to get a little more and better at it because of, Justin, for example, he was getting on me once in a while about, hey, you need to post a little more.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better at it, and it's definitely, I see where that's just how the new day is, so I'm getting better and better and trying to post more and more.
Yeah, it is very important. We talk about it on pretty much every single episode. There are times when I am all about social media, things are just clicking and I'm enjoying it. And then there's other times where it's a chore. And I'm definitely in the chore phase right now. I feel like social media and I are not seeing eye to eye. Like we're having a little bit of a lover's quarrel. And I don't want anything to do with social media at the moment, but I know that that's bad, especially on this show. Like I talk about how you really need to focus on it, but there are some tools and things that you can get some structure around that, and that can help you. I can't think of any of the tools off the top of my mind right now, but there's you can basically get apps where you can pre-post things, so you can schedule your posts for the week or something. So you take.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty. There's good things out there. I think Ferenc Alekis. Oh, I always mess his name up. I'm gonna try to look up at his show. I'm pretty sure he gave 2 or 3 examples of softwares or apps that you could use to make this whole thing a lot easier. Because that I think would work well for me. If I pick maybe a Sunday night or something. sit down for an hour, create the post for my week, go from there, versus every night kind of having to remember. Yeah. Okay, so I'm searching his thing. So episode 191, Frank Alekis of Overland Site. Yeah, this is the one. He definitely gives a couple of examples on there of how to do this. So yeah, this is for you, Brennan, and for anybody else listening. Go back if you're struggling with social media. Listen to that show, 191, Overland Site, and you'll get some very specific apps and stuff you can try out. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that show again.
Yeah, I do better. I stay on top of it during the racing season, but where it seems I fall off is, when it's not racing season, and I still need to get on there and, still keep some updates going and stuff like that. But that's the hardest struggle, it seems, for me during the off season to try to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. So. Folks have mentioned to me before, especially for seasonal sports, that they've run out of content, late into the season. So like backcountry snowmobilers, they'll get all this content, and then in the middle of summer, they're like, hey guys, this is my burrito that I'm eating. Ha ha ha. They just don't know what to do anymore. So folks have talked about get a whole bunch of content as much as you can, when you can, and then save it. Like even your good stuff, you save it and you bring it back out, in sections. So some people have even said they've gone as far as they plan out their whole year worth of posts. So they've got all of their pictures or whatever it is that they want to share for the whole year, and they can always bring something out of their vault. And that's like these people are the ones that crush it, right? This is why I don't crush it on social media. But if you can get to that point, like high five, you got this figured out.
Right.
Did you just get stressed out? Like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do that. Yeah, that's just one way of doing it. There's definitely other people that on the spot can figure stuff out. But if you're in a sport that you've got options like all year round to capture content, then you're in a much better place. But if you're limited to a small season, get all the content you can when you can. All right, well, I want to hop into the lightning round here, and I love this question. I don't always get to ask it, but if you could sponsor anyone in the world, who would you choose and why?
Oh man, that's a tough one to answer. It really is. I'm gonna have to stick probably with the snowmobile industry here, and I'm gonna probably have to say Tucker Hibbert.
Yeah, there you go.
He's just such an inspiration in the sport of racing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd hands down say he's the GOAT.
Yeah. Yep.
I've never really seen anyone go from the back and just still win the race.
Yeah.
That one time, and I'd have to say Tucker. I'm kind of sad he's not racing anymore, but.
Yeah, I know. I came so close to getting him on the show. It was like, I thought I had it. He had just announced his retirement, and someone who knew him reached out to me and said, hey, like he's looking for ways to thank his guests or thank his fans. And, I got his email and it was like, yeah, that sounds great. It wasn't him. I can't remember who I was talking to, but it wasn't him directly. Yeah, sounds great. Let's try to get something in the next month or so. I'm like, oh, sweet. And, that was the last contact I was able to successfully make.
Ah, darn. That would have been a good one.
But hey, I haven't given up yet. I have a couple of other avenues here to try to get him on. But yeah, I completely agree. He has done just crazy good work over a crazy long amount of time. So even the fact that he retired, I mean, he was, I think he's still very highly respected in the industry. Kind of like in the motocross world, like a Ricky Carmichael.
He is. Yeah.
You just hop in and do it. People be like, oh, you want to race? Oh, cool. Whatever. You out of shape? Whatever. Come on in. We got you.
Yep.
We'll let you run a couple laps around us here. It's fine. But good deal. Hey, you answered it. That was awesome. Not everybody comes up with an answer for that, so high five.
Oh yeah, it was tough. It's tough to just pick, but
I've never
I'd have
answered
to
it.
say,
I've never done it myself. I actually have a show idea that one day I'm going to do a solo show where I just answer that question, and I haven't done it yet because I don't know. But hey, I'm the host. I get to ask people things and make rules. And my rule right now is I don't have to follow my own rule. That's just how it is. Well, hey, it's time for us to wrap things up at the finish line here. What would you say is one thing our listeners need to take away from the show? If they forgot everything else that we talked about, what's the one thing they need to remember?
With this episode, I'd probably have to say, when life gets rough, just to, keep your head up and keep moving forward. Don't give up on yourself, and find your passion and follow your dreams.
I just did a show, a live show, or I think it was earlier this week. Days are kind of blending together. I think it was earlier this week, and I called it Sponsorship Grit. And it was based on the fact that many people on the show, they say one of two things at the end here when I ask that question. They say either don't give up or like be yourself, be genuine. And you kind of did a little bit of both there. But yeah, it's pretty critical when you're down, you're tired, you're exhausted, you just keep going. That's going to make a difference. Well, what's the best way, again, here for people listening to connect with you?
You can do Brennen Shermer on Facebook or on Instagram at Brennen Shermer 178.
Perfect. Well, Brennen, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today and talk about a pretty vulnerable topic, but I think it's very important for people to understand that. I know there's vets that listen to this show, and I think they're going to appreciate you bringing that up. But at this point, I'm going to have to leave it at this. Have fun and ride safe.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4Wheel Parts. I want you to make sure that you are subscribed to this show, whether it's on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming guests and upcoming episodes. And then follow us on social media. We're on all of the platforms. You can find out the most content, though, on our Facebook page. That's where we do our live videos. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, you can also check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. It is a support network where you can ask questions about best practices and get feedback from our audience. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, 4Wheel Parts, AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.